Hello, this is Dr. Jose Arcaya. You've probably seen my picture and videos in my website, www.josearcaya.com. And if you've been there, there's a number of articles I've put in recently, and I will be putting on more. And this is a new video that I'm posting now. And it's going to be some repetition of things I've said in the past regarding the application process in New York City for the police department, fire department, corrections department, even other areas, sanitation, the school safety officers, that they all fall under this umbrella of the Civil Service Commission, who is the ultimate authority as to when people are accepted or not accepted onto the job, and they overview how psychologists that work for these different agencies screen in or screen out examinees. And I want to just speak quickly about the New York Police Department, which is not unlike a lot of departments across the country and uses a little bit of different approaches to screening people, but nevertheless is the kind of mainstay model of how police officers are picked. And if you are watching me and you're just looking at the beginnings of the process, I'm glad, because I would want to say to you, be careful what you write in the beginning stages of the application. And you can do this online and whatever. You can go down to centers and put in your information. There's tests to be taken and whatever. And it really is important that you think before you put in information, that is, either omitting it or inserting things that say something about your character, because that is going to follow you into the oral interview, where a kind of final decision is going to be made, given that you also are approved on other areas, medical, for example, and that you minimally show the characteristics necessary to even apply for a police department position or a fire department position, which would be education, which would be basically sound background as best they can determine early on that there's been no criminal events in your background, and problems that you may not have admitted to, but then seem to be difficult to square with your application, and that then you get into reviews, and then you never even get to the psychological examination, because they're finding out stuff that you didn't admit, and that therefore they think that you're trying to get around what the basic requirements are to even go forward to have an oral investigation. I want to put that other thing aside, because once you get to the oral, what you're going to be hearing is they will be getting questions that will come like out of the blue, things about how you've spent your free time, maybe your views about police work and whatever. And then they'll also turn back to those records that they have, the written stuff that you have provided, and they'll compare one with the other. And I say some of this stuff over in other videos, but I'll just have to keep saying it, because I get the same explanation when people come to me asking for appeal, and I'll bring out the records that I have been sent from NYPD or what other agency, and they say, and if they see there, well, candidate X admitted to having two driving summonses, and but he put in his original papers that he had four. Now, of course, they can follow this up by really going into the public records and determining this. But if they see an inconsistency, you're really dead to rights, because they're going to say you're lying. You're trying to trying to bloom yourself into a better person with a better background than really is, they would say, is the case, and contradictory, and that there's no credibility. Now, it may not be that you're lying, or that you're trying to be faking something, but that you're forgetting it, you forgot what you wrote, whatever. Well, don't forget what you wrote. That's all I have to say to you. And just remember what you've written down, and what you put into the to the computer that you're, if you give me some background that way or whatever, and maybe make notes and take those home with you. Because if you're going to say something, if they're going to ask you for dates, when were you fired? When were you last drunk? When did you get into, a fist fight that got, into a problematic thing when you were maybe a teenager? When did you declare bankruptcy? The answer, well, I just don't recall. It's just been so long ago, whatever. It's just not going to sit well. And it's going to say something as to your mental focus. In fact, it's going to say, well, you're kind of an uncaring person because it did leave a mark on you. It's like, with some people, these things are like light bulb memories of like something that was, very important. It was seared into their minds. Others, I just forget it. And so, well, if they're going to forget about this, then it's like this person is free and lucky, and they're not patrolling themselves. And there's going to be a problem there. Okay. Now, in the interview, be sure, and at least in these the ones that I'm talking about, these formats with the police department, which is that many people come through, whatever, follow the protocol. They tell you dress accordingly, dark suit for a tie that's with a white shirt, just a standard thing, maybe blue tie, whatever. Shine shoes, come in, shake your hand to the examiner, sit up, watch the examiner asking you questions, don't veer away, try to look honest in what you're saying. Okay, I don't necessarily follow that protocol. I do evaluees, and I do it with other agencies. I feel I can get over that, the appearance thing, because I'm trying to get more into the mental thing with them. But the external thing does count for YM, for the New York Police, as does the matter of the dress for the women, that they're appropriately dressed in a business attire, but not too much makeup, not over use of the earrings, and so therefore they make a, kind of a low key kind of impression that has some sort of credibility that they're focused on the job at hand. Okay, and so watching what you say and watching what you write and making sure they coordinate is highly important. If you've gone through it, okay, well, you get your admission, fine. I don't see people who admit it. I see people who aren't admitted. And then the question becomes, well, how do I appeal this? Well, first of all, you don't get, the first thing is that you're appealing. They send you a notice of potential appeal. That you're being considered for disqualification. Why do they want to say that? It's so that you would then sign off on a letter that says, I am not going to appeal this, and you're not going to say somehow in public or whatever that I was refused by the police department. I won't have a record there of that fact. The unfortunate deal, though, is that they don't eliminate that record. That record remains in the bowels of the NYPD archives, and is pulled out, fished out when you are again applying for the police department or some other civil department. So you go to corrections. Well, those records that you didn't get through the NYPD is now following you in the corrections department. And it's done because they just want to save manpower. They don't want to hassle with going through an appeal and then having to have people look over what the appeal is and get records to an examining psychologist and so forth and so on. So if you bypass that and you say you want to appeal, then they will send you a release of information form that then you would send to your professional psychologist for getting those records so that those can be examined by him, and in your company he can explain what's the reasons for the turn down and see if you want to appeal, what you have to say in response to 3, 4, 5 things. There's typically about that many that they whoever the examiner is pointing to. And you'll have to send a little letter over the Civil Service Commission on your own saying you want to appeal this turn down. If you come through me in my website, explain all of this. I even send you a template for the Civil Service Commission request letter that you want to appeal, and for all this information I'm telling you now verbally. The one point I wanted to stress is that you will read somewhere in there, it says you have 30 days to appeal. Yes, you have 30 days to send a request for an appeal to the Civil Service Commission. It's not that you really appeal, because you can't appeal because you don't know the reasons why you were turned down. You may have suspicions, you may have ideas, but they don't necessarily correlate with reality. And the only way one finds that out is when those records are received that are often more than 30 pages long. And then you can see what they're pointing out that then is very surprising. Okay? And the examiner is not going to tell you up front exactly all the thing, enumerate everything that was wrong with you that led to the turn down. So that then the point is that you'll request for that records, and then you'll wait for about 2 months before the actual records come to your psychologist, will then announce they're here, and then you can sit down and go over and see if you believe you have a case, that you have an explanation for the negative things that they're saying. Okay, and of course the psychologist is going to put in his own opinions about it, and that's what at least I say what I do. I don't know maybe what others are doing. And you're at that point you decide you want to go forward, which will cost you some sort of money, and for the effort of the professional to help carve out this appeal document. Given that the document is done and then sent over to by certified mail eventually to the New York City Police Department Appeals Unit, or the fire department, or corrections, or whatever, and there are different addresses where these appeals are sent according to the particular agency to which you applied. Then you're going to have to sit back for maybe 3-4 months waiting to see what those agencies think about what your explanations are. And sometimes they may agree and say, yes, there was maybe some mistake made, and there's an unfair evaluation that has occurred, and we want to see a second want to have a second interview with the individual. No, a second interview. It isn't that you just go back into service, but they want to check you out based on what the new information is, to see that indeed a miscarriage of justice took place, and that you're deserving to get into the ranks. If you're turned down, then there's still hope. It doesn't mean it's over, because then the Civil Service Commission has the option of reading, and they do, all these turn downs to see if sufficient justice was done to the examinee, and that the police department, the agencies that in question, did not overplay their hands, that they were just, examined all the evidence, and so they would then support the disqualification. When that's not the case, then they ask for a hearing. And that hearing is a civil service hearing that has 3 or 4 commissioners that then wants to hear the side of the agency that turned down the individual, NYPD, FDNY, the sanitation, the corrections, the school safety officers, whatever. And then they want to hear the candidate's side, which the candidate will go onto the stand and explain, and possibly challenge what the police department has brought in, and may have with him or her the his expert witness. The expert witness turns out to be the psychologist that did do the examination, and then would supply further information showing that he, in fact, or she, in fact, believes that there was a miscarriage, and give the explanation for that, and challenge the other side. And so you have like a court, basically, but it's not the same as a civil court. It's rather informal. They kind of like relax some of the rules. There's more talking back and forth. And then the commissioners will then take that into account, and what they heard, and then they give a decision maybe within a month. Okay, and they get their heads together and say, well, thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever, and they have options, either to get the person back in or get the thing remanded. If you read my website, you will get more information about that matter. Now you can bring in a lawyer, and the lawyer would then, at that point, be litigating the case, and would still use your expert witness, And so now you got to bring in two people. You have to pay for the expert witness. You got to pay for the lawyer. That's fine. I am a lawyer myself. I have done matters like this, and that's fine. And they can guarantee that there will be a hearing by the commissioners, and they would charge their due fee. But that's all down the line, and I'm willing to discuss that with anybody later on. So that's basically what I wanted to bring up, just to get an overview, because people have been at times still calling me, and I think they get confused, and rightfully so. There's a lot of paperwork that's a little unclear and vague, and I wanted to say that point. One last thing, Nassau County, just to show you a difference, it has a only 15 days before you can that limit statute limitations to indicate to their Civil Service Commission that you want to uh, appeal a turn down for that police department, and so you have to act quicker and get a release of information to the psychologist. You can request the records. The records are sent, and then there could be an extension, and then it's the same process basically, except it's got a different statute of limitations. So anyway, Jose Arcaya, you have you'll see on the screen. I'll put that in my website and my email address. And please feel free to contact me, and I'll try to answer whatever I can. Okay, this is of relevance to you. Okay, bye bye.